So I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about the filmmaking part first.
I created my first project, which is called Wallflower. Last year, we were in the Essence Film Festival. We were at the American Black Film Festival. So just a bunch of different festivals.
How do you go about even getting your film on that level?
We really worked hard of making sure that it was something that similar to what you would see on any platform.
For my young people out there that are trying to get into filmmaking, what would you tell a young person right now?
So many things. I would say
I'm Marcel Clark. This is Hustle and Grow. Today I have a very special guest, Safia Bartholomew. And look, she's actually a filmmaker and she has her own company and she's a ghostwriter. So this should be fun. So everybody that's really trying to focus on this area, please pay attention because she's the best in the game. How you doing, Safia?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for actually jumping on the show. I always appreciate excellence. So talk to me about. So I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about the filmmaking part first. So talk to me about your company.
So filmmaking is I'm somebody who definitely loved a good story. Like from the time that I was young, I was reading books, watching shows, reading magazines. So everything that I do is very much into the storytelling, help either creating my own stories or helping other people tell their stories. So I was for over the past decade, I've been doing ghostwriting. So that's the helping other people tell their stories part of it. And in the last couple of years, I recently kind of done both, where I'm still doing ghostwriting, but also got into filmmaking. I created my first project, which is called Wallflower. And that was in last year we were in the Essence Film Festival. We were at the American Black Film Festival. So just a bunch of different festivals around the world. And that was like such an amazing experience. So with filmmaking, my goal with that was really to just first of all, tell stories that people that you don't often see with Black people. Like I heard the term Black stories don't always have to hurt. So I didn't want to create stories. I wanted to show us, just living our lives, going through our trials and triumphs, and stories that can relate to people, stories about love in all of its different forms, whether it's self-love and self-discovery, or your family or friendships or romantic love. So I really wanted to show Black people in that light. So this was my first foray into that, was showing a shy teenage girl kind of discovering herself. And I would say that it's a story, it's kind of like Grownish meets Insecure if Issa was in high school, basically. And for that was, so with the coming of age story with that, so she's a shy teenage girl, and she's living in an extroverted world where everybody's kind of telling her what she should be doing, when she should do it, like really kind of putting their perspective onto her life, but she has her own dreams. So, what sparks the change for her is that she's gifted with a necklace from her Jamaican granny. It's a family heirloom, and that sparks her to have the confidence to go after whatever it is that she wants, and she dreams of being an artist. So,
Wow, that sounds like an incredible storyline. So you mentioned festivals like the Essence Festival. How do you go about even getting your film on that level where everybody had a chance to like watch what you showcase? Is it a process involved in?
yeah, maybe I'll take you from like the beginning. So, I'm from Toronto, Canada. So we have like a really good grant system for art. So, I was able to I applied for a grant and I was able to get a six-figure grant to produce this, which was amazing. So with producing that, we really worked hard of making sure that it was something that, like, even though we're independent, we wanted to make sure that it looked great, like this, similar to what you would see on, any platform. So we really focused on the storytelling and the story. And then, so once we created that, I believe that was we wrapped up end of beginning of last year, January 2023. From there, you go through just kind of figuring out what festivals you think it would fit. And I always have seen Essence Festival. I've always seen the American Black Film Festival, which is really like the pinnacle. Like this year, I believe Issa Rae was hosting. She was the ambassador for that festival. So I had like a hit list of festivals that I really wanted to go to. So it's just really making sure that you're really prepared. So I had made sure I had all my visual assets. I made sure that I had really compelling like bios for everybody in the team, just really setting us up so that way it's really organized and clear. And then I just submitted it. I shot my shot, and then I was able to I was able to be in those festivals. With the Essence one, it was for us to pitch it. So we got to sit with a panel of industry professionals for them to kind of share their feedback on it. And we got really good feedback. At the American Black Film Festival, we were able to screen it for an audience on South Beach, which was amazing. So yeah, it's just been like an awesome journey so far.
So I guess it must be very exciting to see something that you created on your end actually come to fruition, and everybody's actually giving you really good feedback on it. And so what's like for a filmmaker is the ultimate goal Hollywood? Like is that the pinnacle, like getting it distributed, nationwide? How's that work?
It is. I think a lot of people do want that Hollywood recognition, getting your Oscar or whatever. For me, I feel like my goal is really I love the route of sharing, creating a story and putting it out to the world. So working with pitching it to a streamer, whether it's like Netflix. We're currently on Tubi, Prime Video, and Fuse TV. So just working through those partnerships to make sure that people could see it. But usually, I mean, I wouldn't say no to Hollywood. I definitely would love to do Hollywood, but I'm loving my the independent route that we're taking so far as well.
So I guess so. Is it easier to put together deals with the smaller, streaming services versus trying to do something big with Netflix? Is the strategy to kind of build up on the smaller streaming services so you can get the attention of the Netflix? Is that how that works?
Yeah, a lot of it is it's basically kind of building your portfolio, or as you would say, like your calling cards. That way people can kind of see the range of work that you create, but also building out your community, building out your audience. That way you're coming to the table with, we have this many people that, really felt like the work that we did resonated with them, that they enjoyed it, that they're coming out or they're streaming it to see it, and using that as leverage to get to a bigger platform like Netflix or some of the other ones like Hulu, or for example, Tubi is a big platform as well. It's just different, but yeah. So that's really the goal.
Well, I mean, and I guess you're budding at a perfect time, right? Because that's the one thing that I always pay attention to when it comes to entertainment in general. You have a lot more outlets now. Back in the day, it was pretty basic. It was like the top three, but now with so many different streaming services requiring content, it feels like this would be the perfect time to be into content creation on that level.
It is. It is. It's because there, as you said, there are so many platforms now, and content is really king. So you're watching. For the average person, everybody has like most of them. Like they have their Hulu, they have their Disney, they have all these platforms, and those platforms need content. And people aren't always looking for. People are just looking for good stories. So it may not always be like the Hollywood produced story. It might be more of an independent story. It might be something in between. Like people just love good stories that they feel like they could see themselves in, or just simply be entertained by. So that's the advantage right now.
So how do you feel about that? The one thing that, we all know about Hollywood though is like black actors and black projects don't really always get the level of, visibility that they should. Do you ever get concerned about pigeonholing yourself? Like when you definitely try to represent the culture, which I love, right? Because I'm all about that too. However, when you're thinking long term, do you get concerned about them just believing that you're just a black filmmaker? We've seen a lot of them over the years. They were pretty successful, but they weren't successful long term. How do you feel about that?
It is. I think it could be definitely a worry, in that that's just the case. They see it as they don't really pay. Hollywood sometimes doesn't pay attention to the content of the story, and recognizing that whether you're white or Asian or whatever, you could relate to the content of it. They just see black characters and they're like, okay, that's a black movie. So I that is definitely a concern. But for me personally, I want to do, even though my goal is to focus on Black centered stories or people of color centered stories, and showing us in a different light. I'm also open to what makes sense for the story. So if the story is, if we end up casting somebody who is white, for certain characters, then I'm fine with that. But I do want to just mainly focus on, Black stories or BIPOC stories. The other thing, though, is that I remember hearing, I can't remember the exact stat, but for example, I keep saying Issa Rae, but she's such a good example. She for Insecure. I heard that actually white women were the highest viewers of that, and you would think that that would be a Black story.
I think that's the magic formula, right? When you create something that everybody can relate to, because I think everybody has girlfriends, you know?
That's it. It's just about creating relatable characters, and then it will cross over, as you said.
Yeah, she's. I think that formula that she's giving the next generation should definitely step, black filmmakers up because I think, like you said, if there's a storyline that everybody can relate to, then you're well on your way. It's just finding that medium, right?
Exactly.
So you started with ghostwriting. Like when you started ghostwriting, what were your thoughts there? Because ghostwriting is a whole a beautiful industry. But you're taking somebody's story and you're making it a reality. Like, what are the challenges there?
Yeah, like getting into ghostwriting at that time, I didn't even know that ghostwriting was a thing or an industry, like at all. I was actually, working for somebody who she's this, she in Canada, she's a famous kind of playwright. And I was helping her with her, online presence, like her blog posts, her, social media captions and stuff. And she's like, you really understand my voice. So have you ever thought of ghostwriting? And I'm like, what's ghostwriting? I didn't know about it. So I just kind of like looked into it, and then it just led from there to so many other opportunities once I realized that I had that skill of like really understanding people's voice and like immersing myself into it. That yeah, I just kind of went from there. And the challenges, the challenges is, I would say, kind of, because you're so behind the scenes, which I love because I've done comms, I'm a writer, so I'm very much a person who likes to be behind the scenes in a lot of ways. That's now pushing myself to be more in front of the camera. But it's kind of, I think the challenge is kind of, while you're working on other people's work and their creations, it's also learning how to be active and maintain your own voice as well. So I think that's one kind of like personal kind of development challenge. But other challenges with actually working with your client, sometimes it could be, sometimes leaders, especially when they're at the top of the field, they're kind of focused on their business message or like kind of like the key points that they usually communicate, and they're not always as comfortable being more vulnerable, and maybe sharing their path to success, like the failures, maybe their insecurities and stuff like that. So sometimes you kind of have to push them a little bit to show, that's important, because we see oftentimes that readers and audiences and viewers, they really want to get to know the business owner. They want to know about your failures just as much as your successes, and they want to know about that jagged path to where you got to. So yeah, I think that sometimes the challenge is just kind of like pushing the leaders outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I can see how that could definitely be challenging because I mean, we're in an environment now where people want to be so much more personal, right? They want to know your personal side of you, which, I mean, for some of us, that's a little too much, like, so I get it. I understand like I understand the lure of social media when it comes to actually seeing someone's life up close and personal. It's just that I think when you're a person and someone writing about you, most likely, you're always trying to like you're protecting your identity too, right? I think it's a generational thing though, because I mean, younger entrepreneurs, they're totally like they just get it, right? They're just like, listen, you got to see it from the bottom all the way up, and it creates this connection with the audience. So I understand it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a really challenging thing to get like yeah somebody to open up like that. I can get that.
It is. And I think it's about being strategically vulnerable. Like you don't have to be sharing all of your business and your dirty laundry, you know. It's not about everything. It's kind of strategically the messages that make sense, like showing a little bit more to yourself at certain points when it makes sense, you know, so that way people do feel connected about you. It's just kind of figuring that out.
Yeah. So have you ever had a situation where you felt like somebody was just sharing too much and you had to dial it back?
No, I haven't actually. Thankfully, I haven't had that experience with having to dial it back. Your point, I think that's probably like a younger generation type thing where they share a little bit too much sometimes.
Yeah, they just tend to. I mean, they've been raised on these platforms, and this is all that they know. So
Yeah.
for them, it's just a natural thing to just actually be involved in. Where in certain generations, it really is. It was totally opposite, right? It was like keep your private self private, and let the world see whatever you create. Like the perfect Will Smiths of the world, But it was never about sharing everything, your whole journey, because that was just considered too much information. So, I guess for older entrepreneurs though, we have to be able to shift with the times. I mean, that's entrepreneurship in general anyway.
A little uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah.
So you're a script writer too, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, what's the process from when you go from taking a project from a book to a script?
So I haven't, um, I should say I'm working on that currently actually because my creative partner, he's an author. He's published with Scholastic and Penguin Random House and all these big publishing companies. So we're actually going through that process now of what it is. But it's probably easier if you're independent, if you independently self-published. But usually the process with that is me as a producer or a script writer would do what you would call option. So I would basically be like, I really like your story. I think it could be on film or TV. So I'm going to option your story for maybe a month or so. I mean, a few months, like 6 months or a year or whatever the timeline would be. So then so I can create it and shop it around to pitch to different production companies or to broadcasters or streamers, basically. But as far from a technical standpoint, it's a totally different writing style between writing books and script writing. Script writing is very much books. You have a lot of room to kind of like paint the world with words and use a lot of words to explain things, while with script writing everything is very much you're a lot more concise with your words, and it's very much more like action oriented in the writing. So what you're writing is basically only what people can see. You can say that somebody's feeling insecure because of X, Y, and Z, but you wouldn't want to say that in the script. You'd want to show that, like visually paint that with words, so that way the audience can see that. So maybe they're sweating a lot, maybe they're trembling. Using words like that to focus more for script writing. So it's a different. It's kind of like adjusting your brain a little bit in the type of writing that you're doing, but both ways are amazing.
Wow. And I guess there's like you said, that process of pitching scripts to different agencies and companies. I guess there's a lot of work behind the scenes to try to get you, to lock in a deal.
It is. It's very much about building relationships and building various relationships, whether it's relationships kind of above you with executives and those type of that level, or networking horizontally with other creatives like directors and other writers and just different people, because you never know who has a contact or access to an opportunity that they could put you on to. So just kind of networking all around really, really helps to kind of get your foot in the door. Because if you have that referral, then people are more open to hearing what you're pitching and what you're saying rather than sending out cold emails. So networking, having that warm lead is always across business in every way, but especially with the film and TV industry, it's definitely about relationships.
So, do you think that you have to? Because back in the day, you had to be in Hollywood. If you really wanted to market a script and you wanted to push any kind of creative out there, do you think it's the same way now? Do you have to be in New York? Do you have to be in Hollywood? Do you have to be in the center of the action if you're trying to really like be a part of the business and the industry?
I think it helps, but I think there's a lot more centers that are creating at this point. Like Atlanta is a huge place now that obviously with Tyler Perry Studios, Toronto's doing their thing as well in the industry. Like, of course, Hollywood is that pinnacle where like you would bump into people and it's easier probably to network. I would assume. I'm not sure. But I would assume that would be easier if you're in Hollywood or New York to do that. But I think that there's opportunities, especially with, as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, about if you're doing it more independently and you're trying to get on streamers and stuff like that. Like there's an opportunity for you to do that where you are as well.
It feels like it's more opportunity to be independent right now more than any other time in this industry's existence because again so many opportunities, so many channels. They're trying to like content is king. So if you're putting out quality content, then I'm sure you can find an audience.
Yeah, exactly. It's really about building the audience, and that's a thing, the process that like myself and my team are learning and experimenting with of like how to really kind of build that audience. Because once you have that audience, you can take them wherever. So yeah, that's really the thing. It's building the audience wherever you are.
So for my young people out there, they're trying to get into filmmaking, ghostwriting. What would be the what would be a starting point from your perspective? Like, what would you tell a young person right now?
Um, so many things. I would say first one, just like stay curious and open. Like I think that's kind of an underrated approach to things where you want to say yes to opportunities. Like that's both ways, whether it was filmmaking or ghostwriting. I kind of got into it because I was open to it. Like as I said it before, I didn't even know what ghostwriting was 10 years ago, but I was open to it. I was open to the suggestion from the client that I was working with, and then that built like a whole career from there. So I think even if something's not exactly the type of genre or the industry that you want to do specifically, I think being like open to other opportunities because it will lead you back to where you want to go or to something bigger or different. So I would say with that, I would say from filmmaking perspective, I would say to start creating, like start building up your calling card, your portfolio, so people, even if it's just like bartering with people. For example, maybe you bring on a writer and you help them with something else, or you bring on a director and you maybe not pay them a lot, but they have their own equipment, so that will cut the cost of production down for you. So just really focusing on creating, so that way people can see your perspective, but also you're fine tuning it yourself. You're fine tuning your own perspective because you get better with each time. Like if you're not embarrassed by the first thing that you created, then are you really growing? So focusing really on just kind of like practicing and exercising it and having a learning mindset is super important. And what else would I say? I start building those relationships as we just talked about. Like really start networking, going out to events. And it doesn't have to be specifically like, oh, I have to go to every filmmaking event, for example, or every business conference. Like, just start getting out there and meeting different people. Like maybe you join a run club and you happen to meet somebody who's also a writer. You never know where you can meet people. It's just kind of just opening yourself to networking and building relationships, as I said, to higher up, but also horizontally, people that are on the same level as you, because then you guys can form a collective and grow together.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's those some really good points. My audience gonna take a lot away from that, so that's really good to help the young people. So, what's next for you? Where can we find you?
So you can find me on my website if you want to learn more of like the different projects that I'm working on. That's safiabartholomew.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm not that great with Instagram. I'm not super active on there. I'm definitely not that Gen Z audience of being active on social media, but you can find me there. And also check out Wallflower, which is the project that I've been talking about. That's on Tubi, Prime Video, and Fuse TV. So you can check that out there. But if you want to kind of see everything that I'm working on, safiabartholomew.com is the place to go.
Okay, so you guys heard that, and give us your IG one more time, because that's where all young people go down.
Yep. First name, last name. So Safia Bartholomew.
Okay, Satya. So I really want to thank you for jumping on the show. I mean, you've given us a lot of information. I'm sure everybody's going to appreciate what you put out there. Definitely good luck to you in the future, because you sound like you're doing a lot of big things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do down the road. And this is Hustle and Grow, so you're always welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you.
All right, people. You know this. This is me, Marcel Clark. This is Hustle and Grow. Remember, if hustling's in your DNA, ride with me and watch us grow. Click that like link so we can get more and more shows out there and give you guys more and more information. Talk to you soon.